So a really standard technique that you're going to see across a lot of different martial arts, maybe done in different ways, is the leg sweep. And what I'm going to do today is just cover some main aspects of it and just touch a little bit on some of the mistakes that a lot of people make and the improper ways that they do it. So we'll get started. So first, I always like to show techniques and practice techniques with no resistance so that you, as the practitioner, can practice without any resistance and without any distractions or interruptions so that you know you're doing the technique properly. So basically a leg sweep, what you're doing is trying to get your opponents, one of their legs off of the ground, which in turn is making them lose balance, and in a lot of situations it's very easy to take them down once you do that. Getting their leg off the ground is not necessarily easy in a lot of situations, but right now we're just going to talk about ideal conditions. So there's different ways to sweep somebody's leg. You can come behind them with the same side and lift, but mainly what we teach in our Hapkido training is coming across. So my right leg would be sweeping my opponent's right leg, or my left leg would be sweeping theirs, because it's easier to position yourself to do that. So what we do is, what I'm trying to do is get my foot behind his, and I'm hitting the lower part of my calf to the lower part of his calf. This is not a strike. This is not for me to injure my opponent. This is strictly just so I can get his leg off the ground. Once I do that, then I'm in a much better position in terms of getting him to the ground. So what I do is I like to have opposing forces. So I'm hitting with my leg to his leg, but I'm also coming across with my opposite arm to the chest. So if we turn just a bit, it might show a little better. So what I'm doing is coming across. If my right leg is doing the technique, my right arm is going to his left shoulder. So I'm striking at the same time, which is going to kind of help twist his body. Now, to get his leg off the ground, I'll talk about a couple mistakes that people make. A lot of people will just bring their leg here and then stop it right behind their opponent, and then just try to push him over my leg. Okay, and that doesn't work in any case, because I'm stopping all my momentum into the ground, and I'm just trying to trip him over my leg, which is very easy to not trip over. So what is important to do is, when I swipe past my opponent, that my foot never touches the ground, because I don't want any friction. I don't want anything stopping my momentum. So I want to pick up his leg once I get it up. So if we just do that slowly, if I just get his leg off the ground, so lift your leg here. So what I'm trying to do is, once I get this here, I'm lifting the leg and pulling it up with me, so that the higher it goes, the less balance he has. So it's hard to do, but we're just pretending that we're at that situation right now, and then I'll get into the other stuff later. So what I'm doing is pulling up with my leg past his. Again, not going too high. I'm not kicking him, but I'm just swiping up. And then what I'm going to do to reinforce that is, like I said, I'm going to push here to go ahead and take down. With the other side, it's the same thing. I'm coming across, making sure I'm not coming across at too much of an angle, because then I'm hitting the side of his leg, and it's a lot harder to lift up from that, because your leg naturally is not going to want to lift across you. You want to get behind it so that his leg is lifting straight up. So I'm reaching past to get more momentum, so I don't just want to get behind him and start pulling. It's another mistake people do. They just, even if I'm not touching the ground, they just try to get here and try to hook and lift with strength, which doesn't work. You have to have more momentum to slide past. So again, now my left hand is going to go to his right shoulder as I lift and take down, and that'll go into many of your immobilization techniques or whatever else you practice from there, but we're not going to talk about that in this video. So to recap the mistakes, just make sure when you're doing this that you're not stopping your foot on the ground, and that you're giving yourself enough room behind the opponent so that you're not just barely reaching to be able to pull. Okay, when you do this technique, it's important to come across the opponent with your arm as you're doing this. And something else I haven't mentioned yet is, when you take somebody down, you're not trying to take him down backwards, because then his distance increases with me as he falls down. I'm taking him down in a circular motion, and his body comes across mine. So as you notice, when I bring him across me, the distance between us stays the same, which means that my control of his position stays the same, and I'm not losing him away from me. So as I'm taking down, I'm keeping him close, and then keeping our gravities close. And again, like I said, that'll help you get into your immobilization techniques after that. So what we were talking about up to this point is just if your opponent is just standing there and doing nothing, which never happens. But like I said, it's important to practice your techniques in those conditions first until you have a very concrete and well understanding of what you're doing without any resistance. So what happens if you're trying to leg sweep somebody that isn't interested in getting leg swept is they're going to not just stand there, they're going to be moving their feet as you step and move around. You're going to be pushing, and if you're in a wrestling match or whatever it is, their legs not just going to be there for you to get. So a leg sweep is not a very like a primary technique that you're ever going to do. It's pretty much always a reactive technique, meaning that you're going to go to it when your opponent gives it to you. This is something that a lot of judo practitioners get into, and they do this at the very beginning of their training, is the leg positioning and knowing where the feet need to be and trying to guide them in a certain way or make them step in a certain way because you want one of their legs forward. That way you can attack that leg. You might coax them into thinking that you're going to do something else, but you're really just trying to get their leg in a position where you can hurry up and leg sweep them. But you're never going to really be able to just step behind someone and do that off the bat. So just a basic introduction to your pressure testing of this technique. You're just assuming that you're both grabbing each other at the shoulders and you're just moving around trying to take each other down. And a good exercise to do would just be mutually have your opponent and tell them that you don't want them to let you take them down. You're not trying to do the technique on them anymore to learn. You're trying to see what you can do past the resistance. So as you're stepping and turning, you're both working towards the same goal. And what you're trying to do is position your bodies to where you see how that when you move your body, that your opponent is going to move their legs in certain ways. And again, this is a very judo thing to learn. But as you're seeing, what you're trying to look for is a spot where one of their legs is going to be in front of the other. So if I step back and get his left leg across, then I'm trying to get behind his left leg in enough time. But I have to be there before he's there, because again, nobody's going to wait for you to do that. So I'm already ahead of this. It's like a chess match. When I know what I'm trying to do is step here so that I'm pulling his leg into this spot, and then I'm trying to continue that momentum by putting his leg behind, or my leg behind his. So what I might be doing is, thinking I might push him back this way because I have his right leg in front now, and he might be thinking I was trying to go to this, so he might be trying to resist that leg sweep. So I know that his resistance is now going to be coming forward because I'm pushing him back. So I'm going to take that momentum that he's giving me, pull it forward, and then step behind and try to get my leg behind his and create that momentum. Because you're using your brain at this point instead of just relying on the strength or the skill of your body, which not everybody has the same, and certain people aren't gifted with being the strongest person on the planet. So you have to rely on your brain, and that's where, like I said, where training kicks in. And if somebody's untrained, then they're not anticipating those kinds of things because they haven't been in that situation. They're just relying on their strength, which you can use against them, which is what we talk about in Hapkido. But I encourage you to try an exercise like this. Like I said, first try to take your opponent without any movement and just see the motions of your legs and see what feels right, and then get comfortable taking somebody down. Make sure that they're comfortable going down and knowing how to slap the ground. But once you get to that point, you can then advance to just having them try to avoid that leg sweep. Maybe you don't want them to try to leg sweep you. This is the next step in the resistance training. You're still the only person that's trying to perform the technique, but you're just having them try to avoid it. And then once you advance past that, then you might get into more of a sparring match where you're both trying to take each other down. And then, later on you can implement any other kinds of techniques, and that's when it becomes, any kind of competition match or anything like that. But it takes those steps. You don't want to just jump into the final stage of that because your body and your mind aren't going to be ready for that. So what's important is the building blocks, and that's what I was trying to explain in this video as far as pressure testing goes. I hope you found something useful in this video, and I hope you learned something. Thank you guys for watching, and keep training.